continues every day at 3 a.m. in the morning. Ya Allah, ya Rahman, ya Allah, have mercy on us in these last nights of Ramadan. Ramadan pula. Apa? Rajab. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on us in these last nights of Rajab. And fill it with istighfar and expose us to his nafahat, the nafahat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the breezes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by which if just one of these breezes were to come your way and to enter into your heart, it would change your life completely. It would transform you completely. And how many of these breezes are are abundant in the month of Rajab? Alhamdulillah, coming to the end of the month of Rajab, and then we have the month of Sha'ban and the month of Ramadan. And Darim, apparently the last Wednesday of Rajab is a special day. I'm not so sure why, but we get a day off last Wednesday of Rajab. So I have yet to ask Ababa, why is the last Wednesday of Rajab special? Anyway, inshallah, I'll find out, inshallah, about the last Wednesday of Rajab, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. وبه نستعين على كل أمور الدنيا والدين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا ونور قلوبنا قرة أعيننا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. نوينا تعلم وتعنيه وتذكر وتذكر والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علما لدني ومشرب صافي الهني وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علما لدني ومشرب صافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علما لدني ومشرب صافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. تمام. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We are at the ancestor of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Murrah, right? So Murrah bin Ka'ab bin Lu'ay bin Ghalib, right? And then inshallah I'm going to go slowly through from here onwards, because the stories get longer and longer, basically. Right? I went through Ka'ab. Ka'ab is quite a long story. I remember going through Ka'ab. But I think I went through Ka'ab, right? Because my sticker is there. Nah, yeah, I did go through Ka'ab. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Did I go through Murrah? No, right? تمام. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Right, so قال المؤلف رحمه الله تعالى ونفعنا الله به وبعلومه في الدارين. So this book is صحيح الممرد والفقر مؤبد لآباء سيدنا محمد. It is basically a book on the ancestors of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. تأليف العلامة العلامة عمر بن علوي بن Abi Bakr al-Kaf. This is Abu Bakr al-Kaf's father. Right, so he wasn't to be a Nasab. Right, so he was like he majored, or you see he's an expert, right, in the Nasab, right, in basically lineage. And his daughter Abu Bakr al-Kaf, whom I study with, she's also a Nasab herself. She took from her father. Right, so it was just reflecting with Anisa there. Every Thursday to her house we study with her. So we were just leaving the house and you're saying, subhanAllah, she speaks about these people who lived like hundreds of years ago. She speaks about them, like how you would speak about your own, brother's children, for example. Like so like one would to say to you, so and so and so and so. You're like, no, this person has this number of children. And then my other brother has this number of children. And my other sister has number of children. And how you speak so, expertly about the children of your family, who are in your generation, probably. Maybe you know a bit higher into your mother's generation. Or some of us, we know a bit higher into our grandmother's generation. But if you go further than that, and most of us have no clue, like who's the sibling of who and who's married to who and who's the, mashallah, right? But mashallah, she speaks about people from hundreds of years ago, and she she speaks so casually, about who's the brother of who and who's the whatever of who and what, mashallah. Right? They're called nasab, right? Because they specialize in lineage, right? And it's all adjectives. So they don't have to refer to anything, and they don't get confused by the names. I get, but now I kind of I'm getting the hang of it, like of who is who's linked to who and so on. Mashallah, especially amongst the Bali. The Bali has a very strong tradition of nasab, right, of lineage. So, mashallah, and it goes back down to the importance and the emphasis on the emphasis on preserving lineage and preserving the knowledge of those who are in the lineage, and the importance of lineage at that as well. Right. So he's called Murrah, right? He's called Murrah, right? Because it is a way, right, of naming, right, on a person as to how he is murran al-a'dha, right, in a sense that he is, mur in Arabic means like bitter, or hard on someone, right? So saying murra, right, he is murran al-a'da, right, meaning that he is hard on enemies. Right? So anybody who try to attack, who tries to attack people of Mecca, right? So the murra, he is hard on these people. And that is because of how he would always defeat them and conquer them, mashallah. Then we see the Arabs, mashallah, there is a very strong, I won't call it obsession, right? But you say like a strong, interest, right, in warfare, right? So they tend to, have a fakhr, they have this pride, right, about when their people are always defeating the enemy, right? It's a pride there. So the ancestors of Rasulullah, every single one of them, right? They were in fact also the best at warfare. The Prophet ﷺ himself, right, was trained in warfare. It was the way of society, right, that everybody gets trained in. Most of the men, right, they are trained in warfare because it was a tribal society. Right? It was tribal and, you would say barbaric society. So from a very young age, the men are all trained in physical, like combat, battle. Subhanallah. So but the thing where you will see that this is how Hercules, Hercules, the king of Rome, right? At the time, over the entire Roman Empire, Hercules, like how when he asked Sayyidina Abu Sufyan, and Sayyidina Abu Sufyan at that time he was not a Muslim, right? And so he asked Sayyidina Abu Sufyan about the traits, right, of this man Muhammad, right, who claims to be the last prophet, right? And one of the things that he asked was, did his ancestors, was their kingship, amongst his ancestors, right? Were they kings? And then Abu Sufyan said, no, right, they are not kings, right? But they were amongst the nobles of our people. Right? So he's from a noble lineage, but yet they were not kings. Right? And Hercules said, that is a sign of a prophet, right? That is a sign of the prophet, right? That they, and the last prophet especially, right? That his lineage is noble because of him. Right? Being in a lineage, his lineage becomes noble, right? But they have no interest in kingship and kingdom, right? So and then Heraclius said, and so we know that he's not trying to regain a kingdom, right, that was once in the hands of his family. So there's no, this is not one of the intentions as to why he has, come forward as a prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course, the intention of him coming forward as a Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course, it is because commandment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And as clearly seen in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when they did offer kingship to him, right? He was offered. He was of everything of this dunya by the Quraysh. They offered him everything of this dunya on condition, right, that he leaves his, his mission, that he ends it, right? And the sign of a prophet is that, of course, they have no interest in dunya, right? Anything for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. And in fact, they commanded. Yeah, they can't even stop doing it. They commanded, mashallah. So he rejected Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as opposed to, you'll see in the cases of the false prophets that appeared after Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Right, these false prophets, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. These false prophets, they when they were offered, right, between themselves, they were offered to each other a kingdom or conquest or whatever, right? Some of the false prophets denounced their prophethood. There was no prophethood there in the first place, anyway, but they denounced their prophethood and they went under another false prophet, right, for the sake of money and power. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, right? Day of judgment, right? These are people who they are counted as murtad. These are murtad. If you die in that way, they are murtad. Right? They are not of the religion. Right. And it is the way, and especially it is the way, right? That the Arabs, right, would name their children in this way, right, also to bring to place rock, right, to place like a fear in the heart of the enemy. And this is very clear because in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyidina Ali, right, it's a very famous story. Sayyidina Ali, when Sayyidina Fatima Zahra bore their first child, right, and he brought the boy, he brought Sayyidina Al-Hassan, right, he brought the boy to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah said, Sayyidina Ali, "Oh Ali, do you have a name, right? Why are you going to name the child?" And Sayyidina Ali says, "Yes, I have a name." And this was like the height of their, the years of their jihad, right? Badr happened, and it was going to be, they just gotten married, right? There was Badr had happened, Uhud had happened, so like, like war was going on. So, Rasulullah asked Sayyidina Ali, "Ya Ali, right, what's the name of this boy?" And Sayyidina Ali goes, "Harb," right? His name is Harb, right, which is war. His name is boy Harb, right? And then Rasulullah said, "Bal al-Hasan," right? Rather, his name is Al-Hasan, right? Beauty, which is, or goodness, right? Goodness, Al-Hasan, right? MashaAllah, right? And then, MashaAllah, Sayyidina Ali, interesting character, MashaAllah, because the next child that came around, right? Sayyidina Fatima gave birth, the following year, right? The boys are, I mean, the first two especially are 1 year apart. In fact, all of them are more or less 1 year apart, right? So the following year, she gave birth to Al-Hussein, right? So again, Sayyidina Ali to the boy and he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah said the same thing. "Yeah, Ali, do you have a name?" And then Ali says Al-Harb, right? So again, mashallah, he really wants that name. So he goes again, Al-Harb, right? War. And then the Rasulullah said, "Rather, Al-Hussein." Right? His name is Al-Hussein, right? The little Hassan. Right, so Hassan is the صغير, right? The little Hassan, right? Of goodness and beauty. Then the third year, right, she gives birth again, right, and she gives birth to a boy again, and then Sayyidina Ali takes the boy and goes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and again Rasulullah asks him, "Ya Ali, do you have a name?" Right, mashallah, Sayyidina Ali is admire his do his, right, and then Rasulullah, he says Al-Harb, again third time around, Al-Harb, war again, and then the Rasulullah said, "Rather, Bal Al-Muhsin," right? The one who is beautified, right? The one who is given goodness, and muhsin, right? So, mashallah. As anyway, mashallah. But you can see that it is it's in their blood, right? This love for war, right? So, anyway, they will always they try to name their children, names to strike, fear in the enemy. Right? But mashallah, Rasulullah took a path of, giving names of kindness and goodness. And that was the way he was, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Naam. And so you can see that, of all the names those, it's just Murrah, right? Uh, uh, to strike was this to strike fear in the heart of their enemy. Here in this example, he actually gives like some of the examples, right? That people used to name their children by, right? And this was one of the most beloved names to the Arabs at the time, which was Faraj, right? Faraj means a way out, right? Or Nasr, right? Meaning victory. The name is victory, right? Yusr, right, which is ease. Ata, right? Ata is like Allah's gifts, right, and so on, right? So these are all these are all names that they used to uh they used to go for, right, in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Naam, right? So naam, right? So and sometimes they will give other weird names lah, Allahu alam. Right? But it is a sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that if someone were to come to him and they either have a bad name, right, or they have a name that has no meaning, it's sunnah to change the name of this person because names have realities, right? So here in Tarim, I know many people, right, who come to Tarim, and their names don't actually carry a meaning, right? Our society has our ways, lah, right? So there are names, but they don't carry a meaning. And so when the Hababas they hear about your name, they will just change your name, right? On the spot, literally on the spot, they'll change your name. That say to you, your name is this, right? Because the other name has no meaning, right? Or it has a bad meaning, or whatsoever. They will actually give you a new name. So you get the benefit of the name, mashallah. Tamam. Right. So he, to speak about Murrah, right? So he is from of course his father Ka'b, right? And of his stories, of the stories of Murrah, of the stories of Murrah. Okay, so we mentioned that for Murrah, right, he has a child, right, named Time, and from Time comes in Abu Bakr, right? So the Khalifa of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, he goes back to Time, right? So Time actually bin Sa'ad, right, bin Ka'ab, right, and it joins back to the sorry, Ka'ab bin Sa'ad, right, bin Time bin Murrah, right? So Ka'ab bin Sa'ad bin Time bin Murrah, right? So basically he Sayyidina Abu Bakr, he connects to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with this ancestor Murrah. Now, right? So and also and he is Mr. Speak what his manaqib, let's go to his manaqib. Right? So his stations and his levels. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Mm. Salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Okay, right. So of what was mentioned about the positions of Sayyidina Murrah bin Ka'ab, right? It was said that he was a person, like, who would gather the people, right, when there was a war, right, against another tribe, right? He would bring the people together, right, and he would speak to the people, right, about the justice and about in a sense the boundaries that there is, right, within that there is within the war, right? So mashallah, of the sense of the sense of justice, right, in a person, right? So it was as you mentioned, in the ancestors of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? That are of those that so Murrah was one of them, and of course all of them, right? They were of people, right, who they would spread amongst their descendants, as you mentioned in the previous ancestors, right? And they would tell them about the upcoming prophet. But Sayyidina Murrah, he would emphasize, right, on them justice, right, emphasize on them peace, and emphasize on them good conduct, right? There was something that was it was something that was unheard of in that time, when they go into warfare, and when they go into war, right, it was something that was very alien, right, to the Arabs, about placing rulings on war. The only ruling they basically respected, and even then they would mess around with it, right, was the ruling of the secret months, right? So the secret months, like now in Rajab, we're in the secret month, and it's recommended to fast, right? This in the secret months, especially today on Thursday, to fast Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays in the secret month of Rajab. We're actually in the last weekend of Rajab, right? So you should fast if you're not fasting today. You should fast if you have not eaten anything. Right, in Singapore, it's really it's shrunk there. So you should fast if you can fast, right? So Thursdays, Fridays, Saturday, right, to fast. Um, but basically, Rajab was known to be the secret month where no fasting in Rajab, right? But even before Rasulullah's time, right, they would play around and mess around with Rajab, right? So if let's say they were fighting a battle, right, and then the next month is going to be Rajab, right? So it means meaning in a few days it was supposed to be Rajab, right? They would actually delay Rajab, and they would exchange Rajab with another month, right? So they say, no, next month is not Rajab, next month is Sha'ban. Rajab is later, right? So they will change, they will flip around the months. They play around with the calendar. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually condemns them, right, on doing that, right? Because they want to fight, right? Because but they have this respect, for the secret month, that they don't fight in the secret months, right? But in our time, after the coming of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the laws of secret months continue, into the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whereby people don't fight, they don't go for war in the secret months, right? But above and beyond, the secret must become a gift for the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whereby every act of obedience in the secret month is multiplied at least 70 times, right? To more than that, right? And every act of disobedience as well, right, is multiplied, like in the secret months, right? And in the secret months, it is recommended to fast and to increase in your, of course, in your acts of obedience. And mashallah, so Rajab is a gift that is given to us, and then we have Sha'ban coming up, and then Ramadan. Right, 3 great months coming one after another. And so basically, there was actually the entire story about Murrah. Actually, a lot of it is commentary on his lineage, because from him comes a lot of the Sahaba, right? So it's just a lot of commentary, right, on Murrah, with regards to lineage. So I'm going to skip all of it lah. I'm going to skip all of it, because then they will say this Sahaba came from this child of Murrah, and this Sahaba came from that child of Murrah. Even the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, they link up, and they see, who is linked to the to the children of Murrah. Even the enemies of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, they come uh, uh, from right, from Murrah, like Abu Jahal and so on, and Mughira, Walid bin Mughira and so on. The enemies of Rasulullah, some they come from. So this is like Murrah. It seems to be like a center person, right, whereby everybody's lineage goes up to him. Right, so which is why, mashallah, again, this lays out for us the understanding, of the context, right, by which the message was revealed, like onto the people of Mecca, that they were not at all in any way unaware of this coming of the last prophet. Mashallah, all the while when we learn Sirah, right? And this is the importance of lineage. When we learn Sirah, we learn that the Jews, or people of Medina, in fact, people of Medina, they were very much prepared, right, to embrace the final prophet, right, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the Jews had informed them about the coming of the final prophet, right, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so they knew they knew the qasal, they knew the traits and so on, and they were ready, right, to embrace him when they saw him, right? This will be a common statement that is said, and it is true, right? It is true, right, that the Jews had prepared the people of Medina, right, to embrace Rasulullah fully, but it's not actually mentioned so much. The people of Mecca, likewise, were also very much prepared, right, to embrace the coming of the last prophet, right, and they were prepared, in fact, from their own lineage, right. So in a sense, you think about it, right, the people of Mecca, right, they were even at a worst. I mean, I won't, Allah Alam, but you could see, right? They're at a worst, position as compared to the Jews, right? Because okay, the Jews, they thought it was going to be from their lineage, right? Some of them were convinced it was going to be from their lineage, right? So when it appeared, amongst the Arabs, when the Rasul came from the Arabs, right, they rejected, saying that they only accept a prophet from Bani Israel from their lineage. They only accept that. And of course, Allah calls them out on this in the Quran so many times, whereby Allah will say to them that you did have prophets, right? The Jews, and you did have prophets that are on your lineage, right? But you killed them. In fact, in the books of Sirah, they will say that it could be up to like they had 100 nabis, 100 prophets in there, at one time, and they killed all of them, at one go, right? So the Jews had it, right, in their lineage, and they killed their prophets, right? So Allah calls them out on that in Allah, and basically to show them that makes no difference whether he's Jewish or whether he's Bani Israel, whether he's Arab. It makes no difference, Subhanallah. Um, I learned something new that day, mashallah. That so, mashallah, I just learned mashallah, beautiful things that I knew about Sayyidah Hajar. Right, Sayyidah Hajar, who is the wife of Nabi Ibrahim, alayhi salam. Right, so Nabi Ibrahim, he has his wife Sarah, right, and he has his wife Hajar, right? And the story of Hajar is that basically she was gifted by Namrud, right? The evil king at the time of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. She was a gift from Namrud to Sarah. Right? Because the story goes that Nabi Ibrahim goes and tries to preach to Namrud. Namrud looks at Sarah, right? And Sarah was a very beautiful woman, right? And Nabi Ibrahim could see the evil in the eye of Namrud, the lust. He had lust in his eyes, right? And Namrud asks Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, who is this? And Nabi Ibrahim says, this is my sister. I mean, my sister in Iman, right? So, but he said that only because he knew that if Namrud knew that he was the husband of Sarah, right, that he would kill Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Nabi Ibrahim said that, mashallah. And then so Namrud placed Sarah in a room, as the story goes. Right? And whenever Namrud would come to harm Sarah, right, in this way, Sister Sarah, the wife of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this would cause Namrud to go into a seizure. He would actually get fits of seizure. He go into a seizure, right? So every single time he tries to go near her, right, to harm her, she makes dua, right, and then he goes into a seizure. So after a while, he gets terrified of her. And he's convinced she's a witch, she's some form of witch or some form of, sahara, whatever, and he gets terrified of her, because every time, if he comes near me, then he goes into a seizure, right? So after a while, he gets terrified of her. He wants to get rid of her, right, from his from his palace, and to please her, so she won't like cast a spell on him or something like that, right? So he actually gives Hajar to Sarah, right? To Sayyidina Sarah, he gives Hajar, right? And then Sayyidina Sarah, being barren for many years, she gives, right, Sayyidina Hajar to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, and Nabi Ibrahim marries her as his other wife. Okay, the story of Sayyidina Hajar, right? So in a sense, from this story, right, it might seem that Sayyidina Hajar, right, is a slave girl, right? It might seem that she's a slave girl, right? And the Jews, yani, they have their attacks from this side, right? Whereby they say that, oh, their prophets, of the Bani Israel, who come from Nabi Ishaq and then the rest of the prophets, right, through Sarah, or their prophets, right? They are from the lady, the first wife, the lady, Sarah, right? So they're all like noble and high and mashallah. And then they will say things like, "Oh, but the Arabs, and they are attacking Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam." And he said, "But the Arabs, they are from the children of a slave girl, right? A slave girl of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, lowly, no prestige and no position whatsoever." And of course, it doesn't matter what they think, lah, mashallah. And so Hajar is Hajar, she's of the righteous woman. But right, there is a history was in Hajar, and the story goes that she was actually a princess. I said Hajar, right? And she was a princess, and that Namrud, right, had actually attacked the kingdom of her father. And so Namrud had attacked the kingdom of Sayyidina Hajar's father, right? And then killed the father and took the daughter as a slave. I mean, meaning that, so she's not actually a slave girl, but she is a captive of war. And there's a big difference between them, right? Between slaves and captives of war, right? They are different, right? Because captives of war, right, they can be, sharif, right? They can be sharifas, they can be people who are of, position, right? As we saw some of the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? They were captives, of war, right? But they were, people of position, right? And Rasulullah respected their position, right? And when he saw they had an interest in Islam, like, he offered marriage, right, to them, which eventually led to for instance, Juwaria, for example, her entire tribe coming into Islam, like, because she married the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No, not her entire tribe. The entire tribe was freed, right, from bondage. They were all freed from being captives because she married Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Sahaba say, how can we keep the in-laws of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as captives? And so they freed the entire tribe of Sayyidah Juwairiyah, which led to many of them also coming to Islam. It's one of the hikmah, one of the wisdoms in the marriages of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sayyidah Sophia was similar in situation. Sayyidah Sophia was a Sayyidah. She was one of the like you said, those women, like higher ranking women, like amongst the Jews. And her father and her husband and and her uncle, right, were people who were like rabbis, and they were very educated people amongst the Jews, right, the ulama of the Jews, right. So she should be counted to be as a lady. They call them ladies, right, someone of position, right. And so Sister Sophia also, I came into it, marriage with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, just to give a an honoring, right, of this woman. And there's a story of Sayyidina Zain al-Abid, Sayyidina Ali Zain al-Abidin. Sayyidina Ali Zain al-Abidin, the descendant of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that it was said that Sayyidina al-Hussein, right, so it was said that when the Muslims spread and they conquered lands, right, and you can find this story in one of the kids' cartoons online, right? But basically, it's a true story whereby when the Muslims, spread, they conquered Persia, right? So when they conquered Al-Fars, right, they conquered Persia, the king that was there, right, his name Kisro, right? The Kisro at the time, right, he had fled. He fled, and in fact, there's a story about him being killed and so on. Basically, he had three daughters, and all three daughters were taken into captivity. Right, they were captives, right? But they are princesses. You say they are princesses, and again, mashallah, Islam respects people, right, with the level that they understand, right? So that, in a sense, that they are from nobles, right? So to ennoble a noble, right? It is a trait. It is an akhlaq of Islam, right? To ennoble somebody who is noble, right? In that way. So the story goes that these three Amirat, right? These three princesses, right? They come into Medina, and people were just seeing them, and like, curious about them, and they are from Persia. So they placed these three princesses in the care of Sayyidah Aisha. And Sayyidah Aisha, took over and cared for these three princesses, right? And this and in the care of Sayyidah Aisha, and Sayyidah Aisha, she never actually presented Islam to the princesses, right? But it was by her muamala, right? It was by her behavior and her actions, her interactions, her gentleness. Basically, mashallah, right? The one who had been trained by the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam himself. This was after the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? So, I think it was the time of Sayyidina Uthman, Sayyidina Uthman's time, right? So these princesses lived with Sayyidina Aisha for some time, and they are actually captives, right? They are captives, but they lived, comfortably with Sayyidina Aisha, and she would serve them and bring them food and so on and so forth, right? And so much so that from her dealings with them, the way she treated them, right, they were very much taken in by the behavior of Sister Aisha, and they all three of them embraced Islam, at the hands of Sayyidina Aisha. One of them, so upon embracing Islam, right, Sayyidina Ali, and Sayyidina Ali is someone also, you say, of wisdom, because these are amirats, right? These are, and so basically, they're princesses, right? So in a sense, you have to meet their level, right? In a sense, because it is how they are brought up. They are princesses, right? So not just anybody should marry them, right? Because they got to come into Islam, like they have to be married, right? So Sayyidina Ali actually proposed to three of the great companions, right? One of which was his own son, Sayyidina Al-Hussein, to propose in marriage to these princesses. So at least, so the nobles of their society, right, married the nobles, right? So it is said that Sayyidina Al-Hussein, right, married one of the princesses, and it was from this marriage came Sayyidina Ali Zain al-Abidin. Sayyidina Ali Zain al-Abidin was prophesied by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as one of his descendants, right, who would pray 1,000 rak'ahs in the night, and he would go out every day, feeding 1,000 households in Medina. Can you imagine that you support 1,000, not people, households? So their entire, mashallah, right? The entire, like their quds meaning their nourishment, their food for the day, right, is on the tab of Sayyidina Ali Zain al-Abidin, is on the basically the payment, right? It's on his, it's on his money, right, to feed 1,000 households every single day. Every single night, he used to carry the sacks of rice, and food and so on, and you place it at the house, in front of the houses of 1,000 households in Medina, and no one knew it was him until he passed away. And when he passed away, basically the sedekah stops. They knew it was him, right? And then when they washed his body, his janazah, they saw there was a mark on his shoulder, like of the amount of that he would carry every day. And this is, you say, this is like, is this possible? Is it possible in a night, like, to pray 1,000 rak'ahs? And in fact, he does a khatam, 4 times in the Quran, khatam, like every night, and 1,000 rak'ahs, and then feed 1,000 households, and physically going out and placing food in front of the door of 1,000 houses. You can't, I mean, it is just like houses on the ground, like when like HDB flats, whereby you go like a few steps, you reach another house, a few steps, another house. These are like houses in Medina. MashaAllah, but this is what you say, the awliya, right? These are this is the miracles of the awliya, right? And in Hadramaut, right, so many stories, of awliya and their miracles. Like Sheikh Abu Bakr bin Salim, right? Every single night, he would walk, right, from Ma'ina to Tarim. Right? The drive, drive, I know what drive from Ma'ina to Tarim is about an hour and a half, by an hour, I should say an hour, right? To drive out to Ainan. Every single night he would walk the distance, right? From Singapore, even if you drive across the length of Singapore on a free road, there's no jam whatsoever. It's not going to be an hour, right? If you drive, is it all right? It's not an hour, right? You drive from one end of Singapore, or if you go all to the very end, like, of Changi, and you drive all the way the very end at Tuas. Like, if you drive at a normal speed, it won't take an hour, right? Right. So anyway, mashallah, so he longer than Singapore. I'm going to see how far it's from Tarim. And anyway, he will walk, like, he will walk barefoot, barefoot, winter and summer, doesn't matter. He walked barefoot, right, from Ainat, right, to Tarim, right, and then he will go to the masajid in Tarim, and there are more than 360 masjids here in Tarim, and he would draw water, right, from the well, and he would fill up, right, the hout, right. Every masjid traditionally they will have a hout. A hout would be like a pool, right. So right, so the hout will be like a pool, right. So the water gets filled up, right, every day, right. So mashallah, he would do this for every single masjid, in Tarim in the night. Like, then he walk back to, so when people wake up in the morning, they'll find water for their wudu, mashallah. And then he walked back, right, to Ainat, right, and that the ra'i, right, the shepherds, right, who are on that, in the morning when the shepherds, come out with the sheep, right, they will see trees, the water is all prepared, and they will see, by the sides, right, there are bloodstains. Bloodstains, why? Because he's walking in winter. Right? And if you've been here in winter, or, in dry climates in winter, your feet crack. Right? And it cracked deeply. It's very, very painful. It actually cracked very deeply in the winter. Right. So and they know this is Sheikh Ibn Salim's blood, right? Because they can actually see the light that shines from his blood and the smell of Jannah from his blood, mashallah. All the awliya. Awliya, mashallah. Um and the stories of the awliya. Right? But to think about it, like to us to wake up and to pray some rak'ahs and read some Quran. Ya Allah, may Allah help us. Like we're not even talking about, going out and feeding 10 people. Right? MashaAllah. Ya Allah. And spend the whole night doing this on top of the worship they're already doing. MashaAllah. Okay, so anyway, we're going on to the next person, and it's only 7 more minutes till 4 o'clock comes in, like 4 a.m. comes in. It's been like their istiqamah on this is very strong. Like 4 a.m. only the internet gets cut off, mashallah. Alhamdulillah. Right, so the next one is Kilab, right? So Kilab bin Murrah bin Ka'ab bin Lu'ay, right? Which is Hakim. So inshallah, I hope that as we go along and I keep repeating the names of again, that you're memorizing. If you have not memorized yet, right, the lineage of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then it is on every believer to memorize the lineage of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because he mentioned it, therefore there is benefit in it, right? So Kilab, whose name is also Hakim, right? In the Wheel of Islam books, I think I put the word Kilab or Hakim. I can't remember what name I put. Right? But either name is okay. Right? It's not that you can't use the name Kilab because Kilab is what he was known for. Right? Kilab meaning dogs, right? Kalb Kilab, right? It was his laqab, right? His name is it was said that his name was Arwa, right? But Allahu Alam. Right? He was called Kilab, right? Because he used to hunt with dogs. And he used to go out and he used to hunt with dogs. And so one of the narrations, another narration is that they said that when he met the enemy, right, they would in a sense they would in a sense defeat the enemy, right, like like how an animal, I would defeat their enemy. Allahu Alam, right, in that way. Right. So Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, right. So for Hakim, right? Kilab or Hakim, right? So he's called Hakim as well, right? And obviously from the name Hakim, right, meaning that he is someone of wisdom, Subhanallah, right? And that people would come to him, right, when they had their problems, right, and they would present their problems to Hakim or Kilab, right, and he was known, right, to be able to give solution immediately. So after Kilab, right, so there's not much to about Kilab actually. There's a bit more about his lineage and more companions that came from his lineage, right? So then we have Qusay. Right? So Qusay bin Kilab bin Murrah bin Ka'ab, right? Qusay. So Qusay, his name is Zaid, right? And you see that a lot of them, they have an original name, right? Then a name that comes thereafter, right? So they're known by, so Qusay, right? So he is, it is said that he is, Allahu Alam, right? That he is called Qusay, right? Because he brings together the people, right? So, and we have seen this story a few times in the life of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his ancestors, of those who bring together the people, right? So he's someone who will bring the people on a day, right? And the day they would actually choose was the day of Friday. So mashallah, they actually naturally they instituted Friday gatherings, right? Where they would counsel the people and they would advise the people. And Jose was known to also to remind the people about the greatness of the Haram, right? The greatness of Mecca and the Kaaba, and that they are custodians of the Kaaba. They are to treat the people who come into Mecca with the highest respect and the highest dealings, and be respectful to them, right? And then he would inform the people on these Friday gatherings, like about the coming prophets, right? The coming prophet, and he would tell them, right, that this would come from his lineage, right? His line, last one will come from his line. So this I was like contemplating on how is it that the Jews, like this I went that sort of hajar, right? Like how is it that the Jews could not accept as being from the Arabs because they claimed, right? But actually it's in their books. They knew it was going to be they knew it was not going to be from them. It's actually in their books, right? But they claimed, oh, he's a Jew. We can't, he's an Arab. We can't follow him, right? It's a claim. So, like when you look at the Quraysh, right? Look at the Quraysh about this. The Quraysh seem to be like in a worse position because they were told about this, right? They were told all about the last prophet coming up, and from ancestors that they share, and ancestors that they actually respect and love, these ancestors, right? These are all nobles in society, right? So they were very much aware, about the coming of the last prophet. So they are in like a worse position. At least the Jews have some excuse, why they didn't believe. But of course, it's not يقبل, and it's not accepted the excuse, right? But the Quraysh, like, what's up with them? Why was it that the majority of Quraysh, initially, it took them many years before they came around to it, and they accepted Islam, in the year of the conquest of Mecca. Right? Conquest of Mecca, you see many of them coming into Islam, and it will be like, in a sense, it just like the most logical thing to do, right? Because they already conquered, right? But it is interesting. It's interesting that they were told all the while, and it was a well-known fact amongst them. Their ancestors spoke about it, right? So it's interesting that yeah, it was when it actually happened, right? They could not rise up to it. Right, majority of them, they could not rise up to it. Interesting, right? Why they couldn't? Why they just couldn't? And obviously, if you go into the study of Sirah, they will say that it is because it's really a fight for power, right? It was a fight of power. It was a competition between tribes, like what Abu Jahl himself explained, why he had to reject Rasulullah, because it is that his tribe, Muslim tribe, they're competitors. I saw Bani Hashim comes with a prophet. So, Bani Makhzum, who is Abu Jahl's tribe, right? What can they come with? They can't come with a prophet to beat that, right? Right. So they deny the entire prophethood, which is completely jahl, right? It's completely ignorance and foolishness to that. Right. So Qusay was someone who would advise people becoming prophet, as what Sayyidina Ka'ab, his ancestor, his father, grandfather, his great grandfather, right, used to do. Right? So that's why he was named Qusay, right? So someone who would of the
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal 'asr innal insana lafi khusr illa allazina amanu wa 'amilus solihati wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bis sabr. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.